Perhaps you've heard of Brian Johnson. He's the 48-year-old venture capitalist who sold Venmo for $800 million. But he's even more famous through his Netflix documentary entitled "Don't Die, the Man Who Wants to Live Forever." For he has given his life and his body over to what's called the science of longevity, on an unprecedented quest to live as long as possible. Every day, Brian Johnson wakes up at 5 a.m. and spends much of his time undergoing thousands of experiments on every human marker imaginable in order to discover the best ways to stop the process of human aging. For example, doctors injected 300 million young Swedish bone marrow stem cells into his body. He completed a total plasma exchange, and he swapped blood with his 17-year-old son. He also takes over 100 supplements every day and tests everything he eats for heavy metals and pesticides. He begins his first meal in the morning at exactly 6 a.m. His morning breakfast contains a dish called Super Veggie. It's full of broccoli, cauliflower, black lentils, and garlic. His second meal is called Nutty Pudding, and it contains flaxseed, walnuts, pea protein, and some collagen. And his final meal of the day, his dinner, is at 11 a.m., and it's some combination of vegetables, berries, and seeds. I don't think I'm making anyone hungry tonight. He eats no meat, drinks no alcohol, and God forbid he would never consume any sugar. Desserts or junk food, out of the question. He proudly declares that he cannot remember the last time he had chocolate. But every day, he does drink a bitter green shake of blended vegetables mixed in with real algae. Yes, Johnson admits that most of the time, he's hungry. But what he does is working. Most of his major organs have been reduced from his age of 48 to the biological age of an 18-year-old. He points out that he has the best comprehensive biomarkers on the planet, that he may be the healthiest person who has ever lived. As a rabbi, I have to say, there is something Jewish about what he's doing. Our tradition values taking care of ourselves so we can live as long as possible. So you may be asking, Rabbi, should we all try to be more like Brian Johnson? We all know that the high holidays are about seeking forgiveness for the sins we committed over the past year. And yes, there are already plenty of mistakes we have made. But I'm about to make it even tougher. There is an additional category of sins you may not even know about. The times when we kept ourselves from enjoying the simple pleasures that God permits. For example, eating a nice large meal with your loved ones when your schedule allowed, but you did not do it, that's actually considered a sin in the eyes of our tradition. That work meeting you really didn't need to attend, instead of going to your child's baseball game, that too is a transgression. And yes, when your diet allowed a rare chocolate sundae, and you still resisted, that too, our tradition identifies as a sin. In fact, our rabbis teach that when all of us go to heaven one day, God will ask you a series of questions, 7 questions in all. And one question, according to the Talmud, that God will ask you, were there pleasures I permitted you that you did not enjoy? This question asks that we evaluate our time on earth from a positive perspective, not just by the mistakes we all make, but by how much we took advantage of the great blessings of our world. For our tradition wants us to live meaningful, fulfilled, and simply put, lives filled with joy, especially whenever life allows. Perhaps Brian Johnson could learn from us. No, Judaism doesn't encourage a lifestyle of decadence and hedonism. It calls us instead to a life that is balanced and thoughtful. To live life moving from a piece of work to a moment of joy, from times of challenge to even moments of indulgence. Life is about working when we need to and not forgetting to also enjoy ourselves. My father learned the hard way. Years ago, he ran his own business. The hours, the stress were nonstop. He became so consumed at the office, he never took a time off. Never. 7 days a week, hours and hours each day. And it finally caught up with him. At age 46, he suffered a massive heart attack. And thank God, a quick trip to the ER and a triple bypass saved his life. It was a frightening time for my family. But it also became a turning point. That brush with death forced a shift. Life was no longer only about work for my father. It became more about the happiness he experienced with others. He began at last to let himself enjoy his blessings when he could and when he should. Perhaps you know of someone living the way my father once did, caught in work and worry, forgetting to truly live. This day of atonement, Yom Kippur, gives all of us an opportunity to change. As someone who was taught to put a lot into his work and is fortunate to love his career, sometimes I need the reminder that it's okay to take a break. Earlier this year, I was invited to join my 4 best friends from rabbinical school on a trip, a rabbinical school reunion. No, not in Las Vegas, Nevada. We were going to Sedona, Arizona. And to be honest, at first, I really didn't want to go. After several days out of the office, I'd be too far behind, too much to catch up on. But then I remembered this teaching and what my father went through. So I went. And the 5 of us spent a lot of time just catching up. And it was the best. Now, one of the rabbis that was there is a major hiker and pushed us to go a little bit out of our comfort zones, to climb up to the famous Sedona landmarker, Devil's Bridge. Now, how could a group of rabbis not climb up to Devil's Bridge? It was a hard hike. No, it wasn't Mount Everest. My life wasn't in danger. But for a 52-year-old, it was challenging. There were some frightening moments as I climbed up to the summit. But the memory of being with some of my closest friends and those views at the end made it all worth it. Sorry to the Aggies out there. What have you been putting off because you're too busy, too afraid, too consumed with the challenges of everyday life? Perhaps a similar climb. Maybe it's finally running that half marathon or taking on that 2-day bike ride for charity. Maybe it's finally taking your family on that trip to Hawaii or to Israel, finally fulfilling your dreams. Yes, they may involve some risks, and you do have a lot going on. But our time in this extraordinary world is limited, too limited. So Judaism tells us it's worth it. This new year, I encourage you to push yourself, to take advantage of your time. Go do it. Yes, this day is one of the rare times in the Jewish calendar when we withdraw from all pleasures. It's the sacred duty of Yom Kippur. Yet after hours and hours of self-denial immediately upon the conclusion of Yom Kippur, tomorrow night, we gather with loved ones to feast, to celebrate, and to enjoy the bounty we're given. Because one of the hopes of this day is that we feel what it's like not to have the blessings of this world, so that beginning tomorrow night, we appreciate them even more and throughout the new year. Because our beautiful tradition wants us to enjoy Sunday swims, ice cream cones, kids' baseball games, everyday hugs, vacations with close friends, personal adventures. And as a bonus, Judaism gives each of us an array of additional pleasures, like Shabbat, a meaningful weekly day of rest. The story is told of the great leader of the 19th century German Orthodox community, Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch. Once the rabbi surprised his disciples when he insisted on traveling from Germany to Switzerland. Now, students couldn't understand why. This rabbi was so busy studying and teaching. Thousands of students were depending on him every single day. The students wanted to know, why would he take time off to go to Switzerland? The rabbi then explained. He told his students, when I stand before the Almighty one day, I'll answer many questions. But what will I say when God asks me, why did you never see my Alps? My friends, one day, what will God ask you? Thank you.